My name's Fidan. I'm a family law solicitor practicing in Sydney, Australia, and this story is called The Walkout. We have Lucy. Lucy was in a marriage with Ted for 30 years. After 30 years, they decided to separate. Lucy just wanted to do her own thing, and she thinks that Ted had become an old grouch. So they have a conversation where Lucy says, I'm going to move out of the family home and I'm going to move into our investment property. And Ted says, okay, you can do that. The house has a big mortgage on it though, so I'll continue to pay the mortgage and I'll live here. And yes, you can live in the investment unit, we'll kick out the tenant and you can live mortgage free. She had a small pension, a small government pension that she could live off. She had her car and a little bit of superannuation. So after about a year of them living separately and apart, Ted says, we need to finalise the documents. So here's Ted. He says, I'm going to get a solicitor and draw up some consent orders so that you can have in your name the unit, your superannuation, your car and whatever money you've got in the bank. And Lucy thinks about this and says, yeah, sure, that sounds great. Thanks very much. So Ted goes on a solicitor hunt, trying to find the right solicitor to draw up the paperwork. Meanwhile, poor Lucy has a slip and fall, as we say in the business, meaning she slips and falls. Yeah, but sadly, it wasn't somewhere where she had a compensation claim. It happened in the shower, meaning she then injured her hip and was very, very unwell. While she was in the hospital recovering from her slip and fall, Ted turns up with the documents from the solicitor. How convenient when she was all drugged up. And he says to her, here's the paperwork, you can sign it, this is what it says. It says you will get the unit, your super, your car and whatever money you've got in the bank. And it turned out it was about $1 million worth of stuff. Her house at $650, her car at $50, her super and her bank account all added up to about $1 million. And he was careful to show her that she's getting $1 million worth of their assets. And she was all drugged up in the hospital and said, yes, sure, where do I sign? And he's like, sign here, and giving all the paperwork to sign, which she didn't really read. So she signs all the paperwork, gives it to Ted, who says, okay, I shall now sign it and lodge it, which he does. Now, about a month goes by, and, Lucy doesn't think anything of it. She signed the papers, she's happy in her house, but then she gets an email. The email was from the court, and the court says, thank you very much, we've received your papers, but we're giving you a requisition, meaning we decline to make the orders because we consider that this is not a just and equitable outcome. And Lucy needs to go and get some legal advice. After she's had legal advice, we want her to do an affidavit to tell us, that is the court, why this settlement is a fair thing, given the percentages. Now, Lucy was like, what the hell? What's this all about? Didn't I get like $1 million worth of assets? She brings the paperwork to me. Let's say I'm represented by this Supergirl figure. And she says, Fidan, I don't understand. Why didn't the court make the orders? I'm happy with the deal. I look through the paperwork and say to her, did you read this paperwork, Lucy? And Lucy says, well, no, I was kind of all drugged up on endone. And no, but I agree to the deal. Looking through the paperwork, I say to her, this deal gives you approximately 30% of the pot and you're entitled to about 50%. So you're short 20%. And the court has an obligation to make sure that any deals that they approve by way of seal from the family court are just and equitable. So you're very lucky because you had a really good registrar who was reading the paperwork and said, you know what? The wife's getting ripped off. I'm not making these orders. So the requisition, right? So then Lucy says, well, Ted's going to be really mad that this happened because he really, really wanted this settlement done. I'm like, yeah, I bet he did. So I write to his solicitor, who will represent by this figure, and say, I got the requisition. I now act for Lucy. Tell your client to fuck off and stop talking to my client because he's got an overbearing personality and she doesn't like dealing with him because he can basically get whatever he likes out of her because she's very softly spoken and doesn't like confrontation or conflict. Whereas I rather like that. So communicate with me. And he says, I think we should go to mediation to sort out this issue and the paperwork. And I said, yes, I agree. So we all rock up at mediation. Now, me and Lucy are in one room, Ted and his lawyer in another room, and we start talking. Now, what the problem is I'm saying, we get 50%, buddy, 50%. And he says, which he'd put in the paperwork, yeah, but she's a housewife and she was a mother to our 4 kids. But that's all she did. I'm earning the bonuses. I'm earning the money. I was paying the mortgage. I paid off the investment unit. What did she do? She was a housewife. Big deal. Yeah, that's what he said. So that was sort of his attitude. And, we weren't having any of it. So we talk in the mediation. His first offer is that she gets, you ready for it? $700,000 collectively. You will recall that the court wouldn't make the orders with her getting $1 million of their asset pool, which is about $3 million, right? So effectively, she was getting a third. It was just a little bit, let's say 30, 33%, whatever. She was getting about a third of their pot. And then he makes an offer that was less than that. So then I say to her, we're not going to tolerate this bullshit. We're not going to have offers that he knows we're going to reject that are what I like to call disingenuous. So you know what? We're walking out. I'm going to say to his solicitor, if your client doesn't make an offer giving us more than $1 million, we're walking. So I say that to the lawyer. He then consults with Ted. They then come back and say, all right, we'll offer you $900,000. Not in cash, collectively. So she got the house, she got her super, she got her car, and less, $100,000 less than what she otherwise had. Less, right? So then I say to Lucy, remember what I said about walking out? This is the greatest move that we have, because they were hosting the mediation at their office. Pack your shit, we're getting out of here. Now, she had some hip problems, so I had to help her. It wasn't quite the walkout that I imagined, but don't worry about it. She kind of hobbled out of their office. We packed up the shit, we get in the lift, we go downstairs, and I say, you see, we're not going to tolerate offers that are not in the range. He needed to come up to about 1.5. That was about 50-50. And he's making offers that are less than that. Less than the offer, less than the deal that paperwork which was rejected said. So you know what? We're not going to do that. We're not going to play these games with you. So we get in the lift, we go down, we're in the lobby, and we're just sort of debriefing. And I'm like, it's okay, we're going to start a court case. We'll get you your share, don't worry. And she's really distressed because she just wants the whole thing over. And quite frankly, she was quite happy in that house. But it wasn't a fair deal. While we're in the lobby, who comes flying in? But the solicitor, and says, please don't go. Please come back up. My client really wants this settlement done, and he will agree to a 50-50. I'm like, will he really? Will he? Because he's going to have to give us some of that super. And he's like, yeah, he will. So, poor lady, she could barely walk. So we go back up the lift into their office. We hang around for about another 3 hours, and we get the deal done, which resulted in a 50-50. So we say to Ted, suck it, Ted. You didn't get away with it. We managed to get her the right settlement. Poor Lucy. She really could have been taken advantage of. And so I guess the lesson to learn is you don't have to get legal advice before lodging consent orders at the family court, right? There's no requirement that each party have legal advice. It's highly recommended, but you don't have to have it. And frankly, some people don't do it. They just lodge the paperwork themselves. However, there is inherent danger in that. If you're just relying on the court not to make the orders, there's risk. So we always say at least run the paperwork through a solicitor first. You don't have to have them represent you for the whole case. It could just be a one-off consultation to get advice. That's my tip. That's the end of the story.